There's some good news cooking up, and we're serving it to you hot on this week's Board Game News Roundup for the week of April 30th, 2018.
The 2018 Mensa Select Award winners have been announced. So the games that have been awarded this prestigious title this year are as follows: Azul, Constellations, Ex Libris, Photosynthesis, and Raiders of the North Sea. We've actually had a chance to play a few of these, definitely can see how some of these have won. I mean, have you played anything like Photosynthesis, for example?
I certainly haven't, and it certainly applies for Mensa in that it requires rigorous mental activity as you play it, as does Azul, I would say. The other ones we haven't had a chance to try, but I know I've heard and seen things like Ex Libris that was really popular. And
Raiders was nominated.
Right, for the Kennerspiel Diarra's award. So yeah, I think I can see where they're coming from. It was interesting to read about their testing process for these games, how it sounds like they play a bunch of nominees within the span of 2 days and just play them all in a big group, all the judges. I think that must be an intense, stressful 2 days.
Yeah, I wonder, I would be very curious to see the ones that win awards, where they place in the time. Like, is it, if you get that first time slot, man?
Because I play one game of Photosynthesis and I need a nap right after that. The popular online YouTube series Watch It Played, hosted by Rodney Smith, in which he, teaches you how to play games and other such things, has announced that he will not be doing a fundraiser this year to raise money for his channel. Instead, he is partnering up with BoardGameGeek. And going forward, Watch It Played will actually be an official part of BoardGameGeek, meaning that those videos will kind of have a highlighted spot on the BoardGameGeek pages for the games that he's talking about, and they're going to be helping him out funding his projects for the next year or so. He put out a video kind of explaining the process behind this, how, doing fundraisers is an uncertain thing. You never know how much money you're actually going to get. And by having an actual sponsor, he's able to plan ahead for his videos and not have to worry about the funding and such. The channel is still independently owned by him. This is just a year-long thing, and at the end of that year, they may renew and keep going or not, depending on whether or not they like the relationship. But I thought that was pretty cool that they're working together. It did kind of remind me of just how small our industry is in some ways still, when you think of like a lot of these big people, these big companies end up working together at some point, which is interesting.
Yeah, we're just starting to see, I think, like, we've brought this multiple times, like Target starting to actually increase its board game realm, but still, like, it's those games, most of them might say mostly gateway games or games that no one wants to play.
In some cases.
So we're growing. We're definitely much more in the populace and outside of that general, like, 4 games that Hasbro makes. But we still have a long ways to go. I mean, I think even Dice Tower still does Kickstarters for each season.
Right, yeah, it's interesting. A lot of companies either do Kickstarters or, Patreon maybe, or just like this, fundraisers to do like their next, like you said, season or whatever it is, which is interesting. I think we're going to announce soon that we're going to also be partnering with some other lesser board game website no one's ever heard of. The only ones that will accept us. We'll see what happens. But good for Watch It Played. We like that. I mean, we've used his videos for ourselves before in the past, so that's neat.
We've got some legal trouble brewing on the board game seas. Wonder Dice has been accused of stealing another man's game design for their own game, Nostromo. Yes, based on the Alien series, his original plan from Francois Bachelard, if I'm not butchering that too much, is also based on the Xenomorph Alien movie series. He brought his game to them to be published back around 2010. They couldn't really hash out a deal, and supposedly they made a new game. They claim they made a new game that's just been released 2018, so a little bit later. But he claims it's his idea. You can look online, and both rule books are posted, so you can look back and forth and see what people say and how you feel about it. But it's been a huge kerfuffle. I know it's one of those things like, can you really copyright a game mechanic is always a fun thing in board games, but a lot of people are angry. Wonder Dice actually has put out a announcement saying they might sue some of the people who are taking part in I believe the terms they used were this lynch grouping of them. And they're hoping that people will see that their game is great and enjoy it. definitely something really crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen stuff like this here and there from time to time. It's something that kind of, mercifully doesn't happen that much in the board game industry. Usually people are kind of nice about this stuff. But like you said, there isn't, it's such a gray area as to what can you copyright mechanics, but certainly at the end of the day, like, it's a hard thing because obviously they met with this guy and saw his idea. So, I mean, clearly there's some influence there.
Well, I think the bigger issue isn't as much legal law as social law.
Yeah.
As we said earlier, we talked about how the board game community industry is much smaller than others. So if a lot of people consider that Wonder Dice did commit this theft, no one's going to buy their game, and that's going to be really bad.
Yeah, your public persona, just like we've seen with people who have managed bad Kickstarter projects who don't get repeat business in the future, could be just as bad as a legal thing.
And because we're a lot more smaller and knitted, well knitted, I think, it's a bigger proportion. Like,
yeah.
I mean, we can see this in other things with movies and video games, but because they're so big, odds are there's still a large audience that still goes and buys or sees whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't think that's as much the case here.
I do kind of have the question, though, then, when you're making a game based on Alien that takes place on that spaceship, how much room really is there for variation? Like, where do you give them, draw a line of, like, look, if you're making, like, an action-based combat game, people are moving around a ship, that goes back to look at those rule books,
but
how similar.
Mean, I'm guessing if you look at the rule books, and you can tell the difference, but if, hypothetically, I don't really know much. I haven't actually looked at the rule books myself, but if he brought a game,
they're not in English.
Yes, if he brought a game that was a dice, let's say dice engine game involving aliens, and then they release a dice engine game involving aliens, that's the kind of thing I think that's more we're looking at.
Yeah.
Yes, there's only so much you can do with Alien,
right?
Obviously, but I think that's really the big issue.
Another weird thing is it seems unclear as to whether or not Wonder Dice actually has the rights from Fox to publish an Alien game.
Right.
So they might have a whole other can of worms to worry about in this regard. I don't know. We'll see if we actually ever get to play Nostromo or if anyone ever decides to buy it.
Yeah, it's supposedly, as I said, I'm pretty sure it's still slated for later this year. We'll find out from Fox if otherwise.
Yeah. We're still a few months out from Gen Con, but we already have some marketing news on that front. Bonfire Agency is partnering up with another company called Instigator, and together they are going to be bringing some new marketing opportunities to Gen Con. Ooh, how exciting. Not really board game related, but it is kind of interesting. Essentially what they are going to do is be bringing marketing based on non-board game products for, I think, the first time ever at Gen Con. What that means is they're going to be trying to advertise for things that are sort of gaming adjacent. And in a statement, they gave some complimentary remarks upon people who play board games and the products that they care about. So it sounds like we might be seeing some signs, some billboards, maybe some pamphlets for things like maybe snacks that you might want to eat while playing board games. I don't know, could be anything. Could be a car that you might want to drive to the board game store. Could be special kinds of plastic bags you might want to buy for your sandwiches or your board gaming needs. But it sounds like Gen Con is opening up its doors to a wider variety of marketers, and as they keep growing, they probably need the more income to continue to expand. What do you think? You excited to see these new signs and billboards?
First of all, there are dozens of us!
There really are.
But I'm expecting now a Hot Pockets food car, which I actually have seen at PAX. So I'm not making that one up.
Okay, cool, yeah.
I think a chess set, except using Mountain Dew for one side and Monster for the other.
That could be it. Ooh, maybe we'll get all kinds of Pizza Hut Munchkin.
Because of the whole shuffle with Catan and Mayfair, now I think instead of the Mayfair sheep, we're going to have lamb chops.
Ooh.
For pickup.
From any specific restaurant or just lamb chops?
I don't know. They'll see. Look at all the butchers and see who's willing to pay the most.
Yeah, maybe I wonder if there'll be I don't know, toys, movie tie-ins. Where are we really going to see this stuff? I don't know, but it's kind of interesting.
I mean, it's
also kind of boring.
We're seeing it grow, so we're seeing a worthy target. It's also a little sad because it could get some of the. We've seen how advertising can ruin things.
Yeah,
but it could be good too if there's like, I don't know, you get a free energy drink, because at Gen Con, you could use one usually halfway through it.
You have a point.
The popular card game Arboretum is getting a new printing with a new publisher. The original game, printed by Z-Man Games, had you use cards with different trees and number values to prove you had the best walk and the prettiest walk through a garden. Now being published by Renegade Games, it will have new art from Beth Sobel, who has actually done the art for them for Lanterns and World's Fair. We've actually played Lanterns, and a friend of ours had World's Fair, and I think you demoed a World's Fair a while back. And it is very pretty, and I know this has been a big point because I think the original game had some fantastic art.
Yeah, the original game, people were a little worried because it had nice artwork, and I think it's interesting because it's one of those situations where they got the rights to the mechanics and the design, but a lot of times the old publisher will retain the art, so they actually were forced to come up with the new artwork. But I think, yeah, they did a good job. As you said, I mean, Lanterns is so pretty.
Honestly, it's almost more about the pretty design you make than...
Yeah, who cares what the game is like? But I know people have really wanted this to come back around because it was hard to find for a while.
Right.
I think that, like, copies were kind of pricey if you found them in the wild.
Yeah, luckily that won't be the case here. It'll be coming out in autumn, I guess timely?
Yeah, sure.
For MSRP of $20. Hopefully you'll be able to get it for that price.
And finally, releasing this week is Space Base from AEG, which is a dice rolling game in which all players have different cards representing different types of ships, and you are building engines. On your turn, you're rolling dice, and depending on which numbers you got, you can activate different cards. For instance, if you have a 2 and a 4, you could either activate a 2 or a 4, or you could combine those numbers together to activate a 6, and everyone else playing gets to do the same thing with those numbers, Machikoro style, if you're familiar with Machikoro. This game is designed by John D. Clare, who also did Mystic Vale and Edge of Darkness that's coming out soon, so it's got that bit of pedigree behind it. He kind of seems to be the new Wunderkind, the new darling child of AEG's.
Every company now has their one special design.
Yeah, you know, kind of nice. But this seemed kind of fun. I think we've seen it at a convention, like, laid out. It's a bunch of cards. You start off with like a big board, but they, they tout its ease of learning, how easy it is to teach to people. I also feel like space, you like dice, you like Machikoro. Might be cool.
One of those things that, like Machikoro, the other big one I was thinking of was not Mystic Vale. Wow.
You're
Card Kingdom.
Valeria Card Kingdoms, yeah.
And I really do love that because usually building an engine, but not only that, you can roll stuff and you will get rewarded when it's not your turn.
Yeah.
Which one of the things we are always agree of because it means people will pay attention. But two, it makes you feel a bit more rewarding when you build like the spread sometimes because you're like, that's helping me out on other people's turns instead of going all fours or something. So
it's always good to have something to do when it's not your turn, for sure. So that's out this week, and I think that's it for our news for this week too.
And if you haven't been watching our other videos, we are currently running a contest. There's a link down below. You can win the base game of Legendary, as well as a bunch of expansions, in order to help with that excitement after seeing the new Avengers movie.
And we'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let us know what you did for International Tabletop Day, which was this last Saturday. We did some streaming over on Twitch. If you didn't get a chance to catch that, you should also follow us over at twitch.tv/rollforcritlive for future streams that we may be doing more and more often. Real exciting stuff.
But until then, I'm Will.
I'm Jonathan.
And this has been Roll for Crit News. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more board game content. Every little bit helps.
Please, we gotta eat.